everyone. Thanks again for joining us for another Engaging with the Experts. My name is Jessica. I'm from the Storage Business Owners Alliance, better known as the SBOA. And today my special guest is Chip Gardiner from KO Storage. He's the president over at KO Storage. Thanks for joining us, Chip.
Thanks for having me, Jessica. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to kind of go into this with saying you guys caught my eye through LinkedIn. You're a very, very engaged group on LinkedIn, always posting about your growth. And currently you guys are in 14 states with 98 locations, and you've done that, the bulk of that growth within like the last 2 years. Kind of walk me through why you had such explosive growth within such a short time frame.
Well, I mean, it's a long process, and we can get into how that started with the partners, but it started, I would say, roughly 5 years ago. And what happened was the partners there, they had an e-commerce business, and made some money there, had some money to invest, wasn't sure what to do, so they decided to invest in self-storage. They found that opportunity in Black River Falls, Wisconsin, and they still have the picture of that location that started the whole thing in the office, and it's a focal point because it was a change in direction of where they wanted to go, and at that time, they were the business, from cleaning of the spaces, answering phones, auctions, adjusting rates, lock cuts. I mean, you name it, they did it. And they did that well with their investment. So they bought another, and then they bought another, and then another. Pretty soon, this cute little business that started off as a side hustle started to emerge. So first it was gaining scale in the local region, and then it started into planting flags for future scale in different parts of the country. And then the two-person hustle was rapidly turning into just a full-on party. So within the growth of the portfolio, they just started to create this infrastructure of talent within the office, and all the while attempting to keep the culture that allowed for the collaboration and creativity, all that to sustain the growth. And and that kind of gets into where we are at today, and with our strategy, which is, identify, acquire, execute, and repeat. And that's part of the growth.
I love it. Love it. That's a great way to kind of, do the trajectory of how you are going to grow and grow to scale. So a little bit about you. You had a pretty large fitness career there for a while, and then it transitioned into self-storage. You went to work for Public Storage. Kind of walk me through how you went from fitness to self-storage. What drew you into self-storage?
So self-storage, I was in fitness for 14 years, and I'd worked for several different companies during that time. But at the time, the company I was with had gone through several levels of bankruptcy, and I'm not one to jump ship. I probably should have, but I stayed with it and went down with the ship. And in that process, I was forced to change careers. Very difficult thing to do, to change careers that you'd spent 14 years building and developing this relationships and networking in that community. Very tight-knit community, very similar to self-storage. So as I left that, I started interviewing. Honestly, I interviewed with Public Storage, and the only reason I interviewed with Public Storage was to work on my interviewing skills. I had not been on that side of the desk for quite some time, so I started working on my interview skills because, I mean, it's storage. What's great about storage? Who wants to open, orange doors at that time for the rest of your life? And so I started interviewing and found out more and more about Public Storage at that time, and also found out more about the storage industry, and became very intriguing to me, especially somebody coming from companies that had gone through bankruptcies. I wanted to find something that was high cash flow, and I absolutely landed dead on in self-storage, and it was the right thing for me. So I had started with Public, and kind of went through in Minnesota and understood and started learning the business, and again fell in love with the business, fell in love with the community. We've talked before about the community that self-storage is in, and the people, and how willing they are to talk about their business and the industry itself. So that's kind of how I jumped into it. I've been pretty blessed to have come across a lot of great leaders that have been in the business from the beginning, and I'm able to now share some of that knowledge as much as I can, as much as I can remember. But I'd like to share that knowledge with the team that I work with, and anybody that has any questions about this industry.
Yeah, this industry, we've talked about this previously, is super relational, which I love. Some really tight-knit relationships out there. It's so funny that you said what you said about how you got into the interviewing with Public Storage. We did one of these with Rahim Amir from Devon Self Storage. He had a food franchising background, same as I did. Was in between jobs and went to interview. I think it was with Extra Space, just to get interviewing back on his radar, because he had, same as you, hadn't interviewed in a long time. And then he was like, I love this industry. I love the tenure. And he jumped ship from food franchising into self-storage. You jumped from fitness to self-storage. So there's a lot to be said about this industry. And I think everyone involved thoroughly just does enjoy the people and the culture and the work. When you first came into self-storage, what were some of maybe the least anticipated things that occurred that you wouldn't have thought of in the beginning?
All right. So the items that people store always amaze me. I can purge with the best of them, and I just never understood the need to keep such random items, and that people pay to keep those random items. But who am I to judge what people value? I guess you could say that, probably not the right word, but business acumen grew in regards to the self-storage business in correlation to what and why people store what they do, not by reading or statistics or anything like that, but through the years of just speaking with customers and hearing their stories, feeling their pain, sharing their joy, and truly understanding what may not seem valuable to me has a story and has great value to someone else. So I learned to not take that lightly. And then as my career grew and learned in the industry, that was early, but what I learned in the past year, it's still dumbfounding to me, and yet completely understandable to anyone who's been in the business for any significant amount of time. I was amazed when it was deemed last year in 2020 that self-storage was an essential business during the pandemic. How can that possibly be? That was my initial thought, at least, but then it became blatantly obvious. Snow vendors that we used and who stored their tools and their supplies with us, and medical reps storing their supplies, cleaning companies. We even had a hand sanitizer rep that stored what was a seemingly endless supply of sanitizer in one of our facilities, and I can tell you that came in handy.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, we did not have any toilet paper vendors supplying.
Darn it!
At least not that I know of. Can you imagine the looting that would have ensued if word got out?
Or water
like
bottles.
Absolutely, and the list goes on. But
sure,
the question comes down to, is it essential? And just based on a few of those things that I said, absolutely it is.
Yeah, I'm a owner operator's dream tenant, because I put stuff in there. I put it on auto pay. I forget I even have the unit. A couple years go by and I'm like, oh, didn't I have something that looked like that? Oh, I bet it's in that storage unit. I never even go. So all that stuff probably could be purged, but for some reason it's inexpensive for me to keep it in that unit. And if I want it, I have access to it and I can go get it. So
yeah. You and my mother.
Yeah. My parents and grandparents would especially my grandparents lived through the Depression. So I think it's just inherently built in me to not let go of stuff. And my mom even says that I'm way more disposable than she could ever dream of herself being.
Yeah.
And I don't even think I'm that disposable at this point with some of the stuff I've held on to. I think I still have some clothes from high school, which I'll never fit into again, but they're there.
They're there. You keep them.
I do. So Chip, we started this series because we, unfortunately for the world, COVID was very damaging and created a huge deficit. Slightly fortunate for our industry, it kind of helped us. We are recession proof through all of this. I've seen year over year numbers through COVID that are just wowing and unbelievable to see. So I think there's now a huge spotlight on this particular asset class in commercial real estate. We have a lot of new people looking to get in, owners, operators, investors, et cetera. So we wanted to share with them kind of like the tips and tools of the trade, getting in, what to look for, what to do, who to get connected with, the resources out there. So for a new self-storage owner operator, since you've been doing this now for many, many years, what does that look like for you? What are those like top 3 tips that you would give someone?
Well, I would say that any new operator, they should research the industry, logging into podcasts like the cast that Rick, Megan, and Matt do from Atomic Storage, or read up on the sexy side of self-storage with John Lindsay, or in interviews like this. SBOA, it's such a great partner in the self-storage community, and there's so many great tips for new and tenured operators. I loved your conversation. I know you mentioned it with Raheem last week from Devon Self-Storage, but I mean, such insightful comments from what I believe is one of the industry's best leaders in Raheem. But chances are, if they're already listening to this and what we have going on, then they're already doing those things. So I should probably give some insights that I received, at least when coming to KO Storage, because we have 3 partners. So I'll tell you what I think each of them might say in something like this. And the first one would be Andrew. And he'd say, pick up the phone as a new operator. Make sure you're picking up the phone. And Andrew often reflects back on his time when he started the company, taking random phone calls in the middle of the night, in the middle of a meeting, whatever he was doing. And his thoughts are customers need to know that you're there for them. You're not always going to have the answer they're looking for at that time, but listening to those customers and working towards the resolutions, the thought process being take care of your customers, and your customers going to take care of you. John's going to tell you to buy right. So as a new operator, he's going to make sure that you buy right. And we work in an industry that you can choose your path. You can choose your path that you're going to go through. You can find opportunities, and you're going to add up the risk. So that basically you want to find an opportunity that even if you screw up, you can still make money. And I think that if you ask operators, they'll tell you that some of the best purchasing decisions that they made were the sales that they passed on. So do your due diligence and find the right buys. Ryan, third partner, he is going to be, he's very successful in the service industry. So he would say, find the right people, get those right people on the bus. People who share your vision, passion for the business is going to be key, especially if you attempt to gain scale, which is what KO is working towards right now. Don't be afraid to ask for advice. There's extremely smart people in the business. We just talked about Raheem as well. And they can guide you and give you direction, kind of what we're doing today, I suppose. And what Ryan would say is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And you need to find people who inspire growth within yourself and within your business. And if you do all those things, that's all those things compile to doing your own due diligence and finding the right buy for you.
Yeah, those are awesome tips. Thank you so much for sharing those with us. I really appreciate that. That kind of actually is a good segue into my next question. So, you guys, like I said, have had huge growth within the last year and a half, 2 years. You're still growing, 98 currently right now, looking to have hopefully 115 by the end of 2021. I'm sure 2022 has even bigger growth expansion for you guys. What are your strategies and tactics with growth? Is it through acquisition? Are you looking at new builds? Are you doing conversions? Are you doing a combination of all of those? Walk me through some of that.
Yeah, it's a combination of all those things, Jessica. It's the growth is finding the right opportunities that we have. I kind of talked about a little bit about the growth that we're doing here, but it's identifying the right opportunities, acquiring those opportunities, executing the plan to onboard those acquisitions, and then repeating. And in the meantime, finding ways to optimize the scale that we've purchased. And as John might say, don't screw it up, or find ways that you can still be very, very successful in doing that. And at this point in our process is just creating workflows and creating processes to become very fluid from soup to nuts.
Yeah, efficiency is key, especially when you're building a portfolio, making sure every location of the portfolio is kind of working in that same rhythm. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of great software and technology providers out there in the industry that can help get you automated, create those efficiencies. So I think that's a smart move there. So you guys are coast to coast, and then you're kind of all spread through the U.S. right now. Give me some thought on when you're looking at a new market, what is drawing you into that market?
There are so many boxes you can check for this, including your population growth, rentable square feet, economy, land to build, optimizing rates, what the competition is, and if we've already planted a flag, are we building scale there? So at the end of the day, just run the numbers, make sure that you will make money. There's a difference between you can make money and you will make money. And I think as I referred to earlier with John, by right, find something that even if you screw a few things up, you're still gonna make money. And because I've had so many people talk to me about, hey, this is a great opportunity. If you just do this, you can make money. I'm like, yes, but there's 10 things that if these things don't go right, you won't make money. So again, it's kind of the same scenario of identifying where we want to go and do the numbers add up and does it make sense? Sure,
that makes total sense there for sure. Now, walk me through what you guys believe. Listen, there's a lot of competition in this space. Luckily, it's friendly competition, as we've spoken about. Everyone is always willing to share. What is your strategy to make KO stand apart from, somebody that's 3 miles down the road when a tenant is trying to make that final decision?
You mean to be the tools that we're using? Is that what you're?
Yeah, what would you suggest an operator do to help differentiate yourself in the market? Is it getting involved in your local community? Is it having a fancy lobby?
Gotcha. So yeah, community, that's number one, at least. And if you talk to the partners, they'll talk to you that as well. But as operators, we just have the ability to make a difference in each of our communities right away. Any new acquisition where we're new to the area and the property, and you think of the customer and what their thoughts are. They have a new owner with a new lease, new rules, new hours, just new everything. Change is difficult for anyone. But how we help manage that change is going to be key. Finding ways to get involved in the community, sponsoring local teams, finding a charity that you believe in, and can offer some assistance, finding events that you can attend and interact with the community that will help with your external customers. And I guarantee by doing those things, it helps pave the way for your internal customers, oftentimes your new employees that you take on in these new communities as well. And those are the people that are in the trenches working every day. And it just helps create a culture that your team will be proud of and proud to work for.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we're talking about getting involved in the community, you guys do a bunch of different things. I saw on your website, some environmental stuff. You have a tree planting campaign, food bank donations, food drives. Tell me some of the other ones that you guys are doing.
Well, again, we sponsor a lot of the local teams. We get involved in. We sponsor a race car driver.
You don't say.
There you go. There's Scott's race car there. So
Cool.
we continue to look for opportunities, and it really comes down to great. It's a KO thing. It's a culture thing. It starts with the three partners and their ability to give back. They've been very successful in what they've done in their careers thus far, and they have the philanthropy piece of that is, first of all, it's always a great thing to give. It feels good to give, and I love being a part of that giving nature, and that they support that. Things like this that for Scott and again the local teams that we're a part of. It's good to get into the communities. And one thing that Andrew will say is, hey, whenever we go into a new market, your first calls need to be to the local fire department and local police departments, and let them know that we're here and see if there's anything that we can do to help. Seek out opportunities. Don't wait for opportunities to come to you. Seek out those opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree with that more. I speak to owners all the time, and a lot of them that are successful have huge involvement in the communities. There's some that have hosted 2-week-long carnivals in their parking lots, fall festivals, treasure hunts around the area to get involved. I mean, there's so many great ideas out there to get involved with. Yeah, I do too, for sure. Let's see here. I'm going to go into like your company culture, because that's another thing that drew me to your company. When I saw you guys on LinkedIn, you always are posting photos of your new hires. You're always showing your KO Communication Center. I think there's like dogs allowed at your office. So,
yeah.
And I'm going to toss this photo up here. This is the interior of your current office, which, I mean, if that doesn't just want to draw you to come work for KO, I don't know what does. But walk me through how you guys are building that culture and why culture is so important to everyone at KO.
Don't let that bottle of liquor there throw you at all.
Is there? I didn't even see it. Maybe that's the draw.
So that is actually in the cigar room, although I've never seen one person ever smoke a cigar in there whatsoever. But you're right. It's all about the culture and the growth. And you see spaces like that. And I gotta be honest, it's everything that you would think that it would be. It creates levels of collaboration amongst our team members, because the culture and the environment that we're in, that we're working from an office, it allows that collaborative effort to work with each other. I have an idea, I have a concept. Here's a way for me to go through that. You'll see the TV in there. There's about 4 more just like that throughout different areas of the office as we continue to grow, to throw it up there and throw your ideas up. So it's a great environment. I'll tell you this, that we are moving to a new location, our offices. So we purchased that back in May, and it should be ready sometime in the next probably 2 or 3 weeks for us to be able to go into that. And culture is a big part of it. What we want to do is we want to maintain that culture as we go into it. So you'll see, instead of the one kitchen area or the one lounge area, you're going to have 2, one for each of those levels, more meeting rooms for those collaborative efforts. It's worked for us so far, and it's fun. I mean, I love coming to work. I love coming to this office and seeing this, honestly, this family that I have that's away from my family. So we spend so much time together. There's no other way to look at it than this is part of your family.
Yeah, absolutely. And you always end up spending more time with your coworkers than your family in most work scenarios. It's just the way the world is built. So making that environment, peaceful and welcoming to your staff. I just love what you guys have done there. And like I said, I see stuff all the time on LinkedIn where you're featuring everyone. I wanted to go into a little bit talking about your communication center. You have a little bit of a different structure than some people I've talked to in this space. So
Yeah.
you have about 15 agents in an internal communication center, and then a decent amount of your portfolio is what we would consider in the space unmanned. There's, it's doing it through technology, maybe a property manager coming to the space to check on it, throughout the week or whatever. But talk me through why you guys decided to go that route and how it's working for you.
Well, you said it earlier, efficiency is going to be the key, and it's the environment that we're in as well. We were able to do that. It allowed us to pivot very quickly during the pandemic here at KO as well. And we have those 15 call center. We at this point, we call them communication centers simply because they're doing so much more than making calls. They are communicating via email. They're talking to these customers on the phone. They're sending out letters. Anything that has to do with the communication with our customer is what they're doing. And that group is the lifeblood of our company, because they communicate to not only the customers, but they communicate also to the facility managers in giving direction on what needs to be done. And it's all done remotely. All right. So, and as we have 15 of those agents, and we need to find more space, because that is probably the fastest growing department in our company right now. I would say 5 months ago, we had 5, maybe 6 agents. And now we have 15. It's growing very, very fast. And it's growing, exponentially along with the growth of the company. What makes sense. And that's all part of our business model and our business plan.
Awesome. So that leads me to my next question. I mean, everybody has like a toolkit with their tools in it, right? That they use for processes, efficiencies, et cetera. Sounds like the communication center is one of your main ones. What are some other ones that are like your must-haves that you would recommend to a new owner and operator that they indoctrinate into their policies and procedures and how they operate? Yeah,
so, well, to manage and run a successful call center, communication center, tech is obviously important. People. So there's so many options for us to choose from in regards to tech. So we use so much from Chuck and the Storable Group. They're fantastic partners for us. And as I mentioned earlier, do your own due diligence, find out what works for you. There's other options and other companies that are out there, but tech is needed for today's self-storage economy. So if you have the opportunity to speak with Andrew at any time, he'll tell you what KO Storage is in detail. But his belief is that KO is a tech company that utilizes storage as our platform. It's an interesting concept, in my opinion, to say the least. The other needed tool, and I use that term very loosely, is people. And you must have the right people on your team to successfully attain and retain your customers. So we're in real estate, but it's a bit different when you have the KO mindset. Instead of your typical real estate, which is location, 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 our model is staffing. It's always the problem. It's always the solution for any challenges that you may be facing. And those two things combined, you do those two things well, right people, right technology, right opportunities, you're putting yourself in a very successful situation.
It just dawned on me as we were talking. Does KO stand for knockout? Do people ask you that?
I get that all the time.
I figured. Is that the meaning?
So, yes, sort of. Awesome. It is. So you talked a little bit about it earlier, about the philanthropy piece of it. And I don't really want to get too much into that, but the partners also, Ryan owns and manages what's called Northside Boxing, and gets him very involved in the community within the inner city, and very passionate about it. All of the partners are very passionate about that part of the business, because again, it's giving back into that community. And so Northside Boxing is kind of one of their passions. So they thought, hey, why not KO? Sounds pretty cool.
I mean, it does, and it makes total sense. And let me just tell you, I mean, you guys are knocking it out. So as far as growth and what you guys are doing, I think it makes total sense and is a great correlation for the name of the business. So awesome job there. I'm just going to ask you a few more questions before we wrap up today. How about some of those key metrics that you live for, that like every day you open your computer, you check what reports, what are the hot buttons that you're looking at every day, every week, that you would suggest a new owner operator be laser focused on to make sure that they are building to scale and operating efficiently?
I guess it depends on the day, the week, the month, the hour, the minute. Sometimes
the nanosecond.
Exactly, and which department we're referencing. I mean, there's so many to choose from. You have economic occupancy and occupancy, delinquency, uncollected rent, rent roll, call volume. So if we're talking call center, communication center, percentage of calls, average call times, your digital advertising clicks. The business itself, I think, can get very complex, and it'll get as complex as you allow it to. I'm not sure that answers your question, but if I had to narrow it down, I would say driving occupancy and economic occupancy. That piece of it is going to keep you engaged in driving your business. If you're engaged in driving your occupancy, you're always going to be focused on the move in, move out, net rental activity. Your economic occupancy will engage you in the pricing structure. And that's really your ears to listen to what's driving the consumer for your product.
For sure. Those are some great tips to have out there for sure. Talk me through, I mean, what do you feel? And I think I actually asked you because you were in one of our keys to success. I don't think we featured it just yet, but for yourself and in your career, what do you think those top attributes are that have made you successful thus far?
That have made me successful? I would say, like in business and in life, what do you?
It can be anything, life, business.
Honestly, you're right. It probably doesn't even matter. I'm no expert with either life or business, but I guess these would be my thoughts. Is you have to work hard. I know it's cliche, but I think of John, Andrew, and Ryan and the work that they've put into their businesses, and any business owner really that had a dream and a vision of what they could accomplish. Then they put their heads down and work tirelessly to achieve them. And as it relates to life, I tell my kids the same thing in school, their jobs, sports, friendships. Work hard for what you want. If it's worth having, it's worth working for. Ask for help and network. That's great to do in this industry because it's full of successful people that are willing to give guidance and direction to anyone. It's not always true in business that happens, but for some reason, this is a very tight-knit community of self-storage people, and they freely and openly offer up their knowledge and experience. And honestly, if you don't believe me, go to ISSS in Vegas and just start asking questions. You better get your beer first because it's going to be a while, and you're going to be talking to some people for a while. So the final thing I would say is be prepared. Take time to write down your vision and plan for execution of your thoughts. Prepare for the unexpected, prepare for rental season, prepare for a meeting or growth, and prepare for opportunity. And at the end of the day, I think that's the definition of success, is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, I'm going to end this awesome interview on that high note. You gave us some really great tips for the industry. Thank you so much for doing that. And I hope you and your team over at KO continue to keep knocking it out of the park in this industry. You guys are doing awesome things. I've got my eyes on you. I watched you pretty closely on LinkedIn. So thanks again, Chip, for spending some time with us today. It's greatly appreciated that you carved some time out of your schedule to share your knowledge with us. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. It's all over here. Appreciate your time, Jessica.
No problem. Thanks for joining us again. Take care. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.